Students, how are you all? Today, we are going to talk about William Cowper's poem on the receipt of my mother's picture. In our last video lecture, we read some of the lines from the poem, and today we are going to continue this poem. My mother, when I learned that thou wast dead, say, wast thou conscious of the tears I shed? Hovered thy spirit over thy sorrowing son? Wretch, even then, life's journey just begun. The poet here says, the very sight of the picture which faithfully resembled his mother brought to Cowper's mind all the caresses that his mother heaped upon him. He addresses the picture as if his mother was herself present before him. And he addresses the figure in the picture as his mother and asks whether she knew how much he wept for her when he heard of her death. The poet asks this question of his mother in the picture, who is not really present, but the poet in his imagination thinks this, that he is asking a question of his mother, and he is exhorting her through her picture. The poet asks her whether her released spirit lingered about her weeping child, whose wretchedness began even with the very beginning of life. The poet says here that he was merely 6 years old when his mother left him, and he was at a very tender age. It was not the time for him when his mother should have left him. But death is a kind of phenomenon in somebody's life which cannot be escaped. Death comes to everybody and everyone, so death cannot be stopped. And his mother died, but he was at that time very young. So he says that my mother, when I learned that thou wast dead, when I came to know that you are no more in this life, say, wast thou conscious of the tears I shed? Were you conscious at that time when I was shedding tears, when I was crying? Were you able to see me? Were you able to notice my tears? Hovered thy spirit over thy sorrowing son? Was your spirit present? The poet here asks his mother whether her spirit, whether her soul was present or not near me when I was weeping, when I was crying. Wretch, even then life's journey just begun. The poet here says that how wretched I was, how unfortunate I was, how unlucky I was that I lost my mother when I was merely 6 years old. Perhaps thou gavest me, though unseen, a kiss. Perhaps a tear, if souls can weep in bliss. Ah, that maternal smile, it answers yes. I heard the bell tolled on thy burial day. I saw the hearse that bore thee slow away, and turning from my nursery window, drew a long, long sigh, and wept a last adieu. But was it such it was? Where thou art gone, adieus and farewells are a sound unknown. The poet asks his mother whether she knew how much he wept on her death. He asks her whether she wept on seeing him in a wretched condition. He asks her whether in the form of her soul, in the form of her spirit after her death, whether she reciprocated his sorrow. The poet answers the question himself as he wishes, saying that she must have given him a kiss. Even after her death, she must have kissed his son, though he was not conscious of it. The poet was unconscious of the kiss because it was the kiss of a spirit and not of a physical person, physical human being. He says that she must have wept for his wretchedness if it was possible for souls which had escaped imprisonment of the body to shed tears. The poet then observes the smile of his mother's lips in the picture and interprets it as confirming his fancy that she gave him both a kiss and a tear. It is usually said that we cannot touch spirits, we cannot see spirits, ghosts, and souls who are not in human form, not in human body. So the poet here imagines that my mother must have kissed me even after her death, but because she was in the form of her spirit, that is why I could not feel at that time that she kissed and that she also felt sorrowful about me. The poet says that he heard the bell that rang slowly on the day she was buried. He saw the bier which conveyed her corpse slowly to church. Bury here means uh, to dump the dead body under earth. In Christians, body is buried, while in the Hindu tradition and some other traditions, body is burnt, body is given to fire. So when her dead body was buried, and when he saw the bier means a kind of coffin in which dead body is brought to the churchyard. He saw the bier which conveyed her corpse slowly to church. He says that seeing her corpse being moved away to church, he moved away from the window of his room from where he was looking. He heaved a deep sigh and uttered his last farewell to her in tears. Cowper, having used a last adieu, adieu here means farewell, goodbye. Saying goodbye to somebody, saying farewell to somebody means meeting some person for the last time of your life. So Cowper, having said a last adieu, a last farewell, fancies at first as if he was mistaken in saying so. He might meet his mother in heaven. He hopes to meet her in heaven when he himself will die. But on reflection, he found that he was not wrong, as in the land where he expected to meet his mother, adieus and farewells are a sound unknown. He means to say that he will meet his mother in heaven, where there is no such on the receipt of my mother's picture out of Norfolk. So this is the idea of these lines. May I but meet thee on that peaceful shore, the parting sound shall pass my lips no more. Thy maidens grieved themselves at my concern, oft gave me promise of a quick return. What ardently I wished, I long believed, and disappointed was still deceived. By disappointment every day beguiled, dupe of tomorrow, even from a child. Thus many a sad tomorrow came and went, till all my stock of infant sorrow spent, I learned at last submission to my lot, but though I less deplored thee, never forgot. In these lines, the poet talks about how he made himself understood, that life and death are the two poles of life, and one must die who is ever born one day. So In this way, the poet made him understood. But the poet here hopes that even when on a day when he will die, he will join his mother, as his father has already joined his mother in heaven. Cooper hopes to meet his mother in heaven, he says, as if he be so fortunate to meet her in heaven, he will not have to say farewell to her, because at that time he will be permanently united with his mother in heaven. Cooper says that after his mother's death, her maid servants sympathized with him. They tried to console him in his grief and told that his mother would soon come back. Cooper anxiously wished that, and so long believed that what the maid servants had said would come true, and his mother would really come back. Thus his wish was his wish was that to the thought that his mother would return, but this was not to be so. He was always disappointed as he never found her coming back, still he believed in their promises, though it was always disappointing for him. Thus, being deluded every day, being disappointed every day by the false hope of her return, he was the victim of tomorrow. He became a victim of tomorrow. He was dependent upon tomorrow from his very childhood. This was most unfortunate and oppressive to Cooper as a child. Man always listens to the whispers of fancy and pursues with eagerness the phantoms of hope. He expects that age will perform the promises of youth, and that the deficiencies of the present day will supplied by tomorrow. It is man's hope. He is always hopeful that tomorrow he will lead a better life. But every day closes with the same misery, the same thoughts, and the same everyday sorrows. Childhood is the only period of our life when we live in the present and not care for the future. Because a child is always busy, and he always feels happy. He or she always feels happy by playing with his or her parents and family and friends. Hope springs eternal in the human breast. Man never is but always to be blessed. But Cooper's case was an exception. He had to depend upon the future from the very beginning of life. The poet here says that because I lost my mother at such a tender age, I could not live my life like a child. My childhood fun, play, and joy, all gone with my mother's, they all gone with my mother. He was dupe of tomorrow even from a child. In this way, day after day passed, but the hope of his mother's return was not fulfilled. Cooper says he continued to hope until all his childish sorrows were exhausted and he became resigned to his fate. Though he did not mourn for her so much as before, yet he did not entirely cease to think of her. So this is the gist, this is the idea of these lines. And rest of the lines of this poem will be discussed in another video lecture. Thank you for listening.